Is March Madness dead? Everyone's complaining about it on the timeline, James. There's no more upset. NIL ruined everything. These mid-major teams don't get the love and respect that they used to. But everyone's complaining about that for round one. Round two of the tournament was an absolute banger. We had buzzer beaters. We had upsets. We had everything that March is about. We just don't have the 12 seed Cinderellas going very far anymore.
Spence, man, like we always say, man, they need to shut the hell up, man. Just because a 13, 14, 15 seed did not advance past the first round does not mean March Madness is dead. Quit clickbaiting like Emmanuel Acho and Speakeasy. We had High Point beat Wisconsin. Cal Baptist, who played Kansas, very close game. Northern Iowa got us screwed out of St. John's being a 5 seed when they won their Big East championship. But some of these other games, I'm not mad about it. Illinois is way better than we expected facing Penn, even though Penn was the weaker Ivy League team than Yale or Harvard or Princeton in the past. The one thing I'm real upset about is people saying March Madness is dead, Spence, and then they're saying Texas is a Cinderella story. Bro, you play in the SEC. Like, your NIL is so much bag that everyone drives Lamborghinis. Bro, you are not a Cinderella story. The Cinderella story from the SEC would have been Ole Miss if they would have won the SEC from being like 14 and 15, whatever their record was. But let's pump the brakes on that part. Texas, you are not a Cinderella team. Just be lucky you got to play a few of wins, a few of those, and a few of Gonzaga. That's all we have.
A mark few of Gonzaga. No, I think Texas being labeled as a Cinderella this year is solely because of the lack of crazy upsets that we had in this year's tournament. High Point's the only seed below 11 that got a win in the first round. All the other 12s, 13s, and 14s and beyond, all of them got pretty much blown out, with the exception of Siena. The 16th seed had Duke on the ropes in the first half. And I think that was a good reminder that, yes, we had another year where it was chalk madness, just like it was in the 2025 tournament. But I will not sit here and allow people to slander what is the second greatest sporting event, the best playoff format in any sport we have here in America. I will not allow slander to go unchecked here. Yeah. It is still the best tournament that we see in sports, period. And this weekend, like, great games between St. John's and Kansas, right? No upset, but crazy finish there. Game-winning basket between two all-time head coaches, Rick Pitino and Bill Self. Then, of course, Iowa, buzzer beater against Florida in the corner for 3. That was an absolutely defeating the defending national champions. We still have a ton of madness to go. I don't think we're going to see much craziness when it comes to the teams that make the Final Four. It's starting to look like it's going to be, if you're a 5 seed, it's going to be about absolute highest seed you'll see in the Final Four. And there's really only one team I think right now would be that team, and that would be Arkansas. I think they would be the team to really throw a wrench in a 1 or a 2 seed not making it out of the region at this point. But James, what teams this weekend, we're recording this late Sunday night, we got about 2 more games to finish right now, but over the entire weekend, what teams really which teams stood out to you the most, whether that be teams that impressed you or teams that really disappointed you and failed your expectations?
My number one most impressive team was Siena, even though they lost to the number 1 team in the nation, in Duke. They played all damn game and did not substitute anyone and put Duke on the ropes. I ain't gonna lie, I'm very impressed, because even though they may not have the NIL budget, they may not have the roster, the 5 stars, they showed a couple things. 1, you can outcoach anybody in this tournament. 2, you can have better fundamentals than most of these teams. Most of these teams live off of skill. Trust me, I'm going to my disappointing team in a second about skill. And number 3, man, they played with heart. So I'm going to give Siena my most impressive for a loser. Now, for my biggest disappointment, AJ, DeBansta, BYU. What the dude, I had you going to the Final Four. Dude, I rode this DeBansta, BYU, whatever they call it in the Mormon country, bed soaking, rocking the sheets, whatever they did. I was supporting these guys. And you're telling me the other team in Utah State went further than y'all, who spent $4 million on a roster, and they spent $12 million on you, AJ. You called it earlier, Spence. Now with NIL and all that, top draft picks, they're using the March Madness as like a draft pregame and all that for tape. I was really disappointed in BYU because me and probably 60% of others fell for this trick, and that was AJ DeBansta and BYU.
Yeah, I'll say this. Watching that game, it was very clear that AJ DeBansta is just different. He moves different. He operates different. The ball comes out of his hand. It's different. He's an NBA guy. He could be playing in the NBA right now, but obviously have to go to college for 1 year. And so I've same thing for Darren Peterson. Like, neither of these guys really felt like their presence in the tournament was really much about, I care about winning a ton. It was very much, I want to show out. I want to get my numbers. I want to put up my film and just go about it, because AJ DeBansta, he balled out. He dropped 30 in the game. He was absolutely sensational. But there were so many times in that game I was just watching his body language just be so bad. He really looked like someone that was ready to just be done with college hoops. Again, he still got his numbers. He still balled out. He's still impressed. So I can't sit here and fully say that he didn't seem like he cared or didn't try. But it very much was, he was not going to be putting in 120% of the effort. He was just there to get his buckets, get his numbers. And I think, honestly, BYU, late in the season, they had some injuries. And I think from that moment on, they all phoned it in.
Some of these games have been really interesting. Even though we're not getting the upsets, these games have been interesting. And we've had buzzer beater. And even some of these teams, heck, we got a couple to finish. But I'm real happy with how this tournament is going, because at the end of the day, don't get me wrong, Spence, I think we all agree we do want the Cinderella, the George Masons, and all that fun stuff. March Madness is the greatest playoff format, I would say.
100%.
Not the, maybe not the greatest championship game, because that depends. But this is the best. Like, I don't know why people and you know why people are getting upset is because they picked freaking all these teams in their parlays or whatever, or their round robins, or their
they had Akron, they had Troy, they had Penn, they had Santa Clara, they had all the teams that lost in round one, and they were trying to be the guy to call it, and then they didn't.
Yeah, they didn't. And don't get me wrong, I had Santa Clara too, and we could talk about how they got screwed with the timeout, but Santa Clara's head coach has got to run to half court to make that call, man. He cannot be hanging out on the bench where LeBron sits when he takes his 3-minute break and gets back in the game. So this tournament was fun. There's a lot of fun games. I've been on the back burner, Spence. Vanderbilt money line screwed me. Santa Clara +3.5. That screwed me. It's okay, man. But hey, I'm happy where I'm at. I still got 3 teams that can make my Final Four. Let's go, St. John's.
Yeah, so my winners, we'll do a bracket challenge update here in a sec. My big winners this weekend, I have 3 teams total that I want to give shout outs to for how they dominated. But what I'm going to shout out them for being winners is these are old school head coaches. All right. I'm going to give you my 3. Obviously, my Cougs, Kelvin Sampson, OG coach as it gets, 2 dominant performances against Idaho and Texas A&M, just completely dominated. 2 different just blowout victories. There was never a doubt, over by halftime. How about Tom Izzo, Michigan State? Another showing of 2 just dominant performances by them. Really held it together, held strong. Louisville made a little surge late in the game, made it interesting, but really Michigan State controlled it all the way throughout. And then the last one, a team that I felt was underseeded, so I had them going pretty far, and it's turning out to be a good pick. How about the Tennessee Volunteers and Coach Rick Barnes? He looks like a ghost over there on the sideline at this point in his career, but he always gets his team to the Sweet 16. And I was very impressed. They completely blew out everyone's darling Miami, Ohio, another team that was a very popular double-digit seed team to win in round 1. That was a popular pick because of the 31-1 record they had. But I was saying it for a while, James. Fraudulent. And look what happened. Opening round, they get blown out by 22. But then Tennessee goes on into the next round against a very good Virginia team. And it was a tough back-and-forth game. But crunch time, Tennessee picked it up, made their free throws, played good defense, and they move on to the Sweet 16. They're going to play Iowa State. But these old-school head coaches, right, Rick Barnes, Kelvin Sampson, Tom Izzo, These are coaches that you just simply cannot bet against in March Madness now or going forward. Like, just make sure when you're filling out your bracket in 2027, you automatically have all these coaches winning at least one game. These are not coaches that will get upset in the first round.
Correct.
Now, a coach that did get upset in the first round, that I am shocked he still has a job. Honestly, I could go two different directions. I'll give a brief shout out on this regard to Wisconsin's head coach, Coach Bard. Probably needs to be let go at this point, considering he just does not win tournament games, period. He just never gets it done. He's been riding the success of that 2015 national title runner-up team with Frank Kaminsky and Sam Decker. He's been riding the coattails of that team for so long now. It's amazing that he's not been fired. The other guy I'm amazed that hasn't been fired, and he's my true loser.
Yeah.
You know who I'm going to say, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Hubert Davis for the North Carolina Tar Heels.
We had Mark Few because I was thinking, 5 years ain't done nothing and find a way to.
I mean, yeah, that's valid too. You can throw Mark Few in there as well.
But it's still a good pick.
Yeah, I was just mostly just befuddled by Hubert Davis because VCU was dead to rights. You are North Carolina, a true blue blood of the sport. I know Roy Williams is big shoes to fill, but despite being down their best player, I just could not believe that North Carolina, as talented as they still were after Caleb Wilson, how do you lose in that fashion to a VCU team who then went on in the second round to get completely blown out by an Illinois team that, we mentioned it, very up and down, hot and cold. I guess they're hot right now, but North Carolina had it right there for them. And again, a historic program that just has not gotten off the ground since Roy Williams retired. How Hubert Davis still has a job is amazing to me. And he got up in the press conference and was acting very much like a guy who is going to be fired. Now, I guess it could still happen, but I just feel like we would have heard about it by now. Maybe we were waiting for the weekend to end and they're going to get back home to Chapel Hill and see and reevaluate, and maybe we get the news later this week. But Hubert Davis needs to be fired. It's amazing where North Carolina is at as a program. I'll give a shout out to Mark Few as well, but a little different for him because they always are up in the conversation. You won't see Gonzaga as a 6 seed very often. No. And they don't have the talent that I think North Carolina has access to. So I'll give a little pass, but I don't argue with you too much. Mark Few probably deserves to have that seat be a bit hot for him as well.
Another team that I'm disappointed in, and I always fall for the trap. She looks pretty, man, on the outside, but it's just rotten on the inside. God dang St. Mary's, you pissing me off, man.
Yeah, the Gales. Never again with the Gales.
Never again. I am on this bus where I'm like, oh, St. Mary's, they only know how to beat Gonzaga and nobody else. They win that stupid conference. They beat Gonzaga 1 or 2 times. They get in. I think they're going to go far, and then they look like caca against A&M. And look what A&M did. Of course, I don't think I had St. Mary's beating U of H, but, man, at least St. Mary's could have not lost by 31, maybe the U of H.
Through one weekend, James, if you could go back and pick a new Final Four, who would your Final Four be going into the Sweet 16?
So if I had to pick my Final Four, it's going to be the same teams. I still have U of H playing St. John's, but I would have Michigan playing Arkansas. That's who I think will go. I had BYU, and, of course, they're not in because they suck, and they've pissed me off. But if I had to pick a team to replace BYU, it would be Arkansas. That would be my team.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough that I'm going to still stick with my current Final Four I had before the tournament. I'm going to stick with Michigan State coming out of the East, especially considering how Duke has looked a bit flawed in the tournament so far, especially when you look at how they played against the 16th seed. Michigan State's been dominant in their few games, and we're waiting for the winner of UCLA and UConn right now as we record, but I think Michigan State's going to have a very good chance to win their region, knowing that Duke is a flawed team there. Arizona, they are looking pretty dominant, and I think as long as they can contain Darius Acuff, I still feel good about them coming out of that region. Houston, now that Florida's out of the way, Houston has got to get it done. You have the Sweet 16 in Houston. I know it's 3 Midwest Big Ten teams coming to town, but I think Houston on paper is better than all 3 of them. They should be able to get back to the Final Four for the second straight year. And then in the Midwest, I think Michigan has looked great. I think they continue to look great. I don't see Alabama stopping them. Maybe a Tennessee team with Rick Barnes is hot and catches them slipping. But I feel pretty good about my Final Four still. Michigan State, Houston, Arizona, and Michigan. But y'all let us know in the comments who were the biggest winners and losers from the opening weekend of March Madness. What were your big takeaways? Y'all let us know in the comments, and we'll see you next time on Big Game Energy.